video is broadcast on LSL Podcast Channel. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the channel.
You are listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. Democrats win big in an off-year election in both Virginia and in Maine, and other state delegate races in the Commonwealth of Virginia also went down really bad for the Republicans. But nevertheless, the 4 congressional seats that were up, retained by Republicans, and I don't blame the Democrats. And I actually, you got to give it to the Democrats. They've had pretty much nothing but bad news since a year ago today. 1 year ago today is the anniversary, of course, was the historic election by Donald Trump. And since then, they have not been able to find their footing. Sure, they're in resistance. They had their Women's March. They have Tom Steyer putting out his commercials about impeaching Trump. And they have their Hollywood types, kicking up a fuss about gun control. Yeah, they have all that. They get it. They get the resistance. They do understand that. They also have Donna Brazile. They also have the revelations that corruption is rife within the Democratic Party. And they also have the fact that in these special elections earlier this year, and there were, I believe, 3 of them, they lost every single one. So what lessons can be taken from this loss last night? We'll start in Virginia. As many of you know, I offered Ed Gillespie an opportunity to campaign with me. This was about a month ago. I'm not saying I could have turned it around, by the way. I'm just talking about how basically uncomfortable he was with the populace. He tolerated them, but never embraced them. And I know people say, well, in the last couple of weeks, he was better, and Trump put out a robocall for him last night. I mean, what is a robocall going to do for you in the last 24 hours? Not that much, really. I mean, most people don't even answer the phones anymore. So he never embraced what Trump ran on and stayed firm in his views that establishment Republican politics were the way to go. So he ran a very conventional campaign. He had a 21-point plan. Let me just say, if you have a 21-point plan, you're going to lose. I don't want to hear about your 21-point plan. I mean, I'm sure there were some good things in it, but nobody cares about 21 points. Give me 3 points. Here are the 3 points I would have run on if I were Ed Gillespie. Virginia heritage, protecting it. Respecting the truth in history, not tearing it down. Number 2, economic growth, bringing manufacturing, not just shipbuilding, but broad-based manufacturing back to Virginia. They had a 0.6% overall GDP. I believe that figure is in the last year. That's abysmal as a GDP, completely underwhelming us compared to the national average. So protecting our history, bringing back heavy manufacturing into the state. And thirdly, law and order. Law and order, heavy manufacturing, protecting our history, Virginia's heritage. It's a pretty positive campaign. I would have run that campaign in a much different way than Ed Gillespie did. Ed Gillespie is a former lobbyist. He hails from New Jersey. Northam is a Virginian who voted twice for George W. Bush. He had kind of a more moderate background, but then as time went on, he became more left-wing in his pronouncements. But he can honestly say, I'm a Virginian. I understand how you live. I understand the difficulties you're going through because I'm one of you. Ed Gillespie is part of the Washington machine, has been for a long time. We all know he worked as chairman of the RNC during the Bush years and very close with the Bushes, worked in the Bush administration, HW, I believe, if my memory serves me correct. But he's, without a doubt, he's like one of the closest political operatives to the Bushes. The only political force who campaigned with him in Virginia, the real force, was George W. Bush. So if you're going to argue that Donald Trump lost it for Gillespie, I'd say you could make an argument that Bush lost it for Gillespie. Bushism lost it for Gillespie. At the same time, I would say the following about what we can learn from this. The politics of anger have kind of run its course. The Republicans have gotten pretty far on appealing to the angry electorate. The electorate is ticked off. They want results. They want things done. They want them done yesterday. Now it's time to get the voters really happy. We need happy voters. When we go into 2018, if we have unhappy voters, Republicans are going to get their clocks cleaned. It's time to have happy voters. That means you have to campaign where Republicans sometimes traditionally don't do all that well. And you have to do so with candidates who are authentic. Whatever you say about Ed Gillespie, he's an establishment guy, and he could never really carry it off as someone who is sympathetic even to the populace. I mean, he gave it his best. It's the old college try. He tried. But the way he was playing it, it was dipping just a toe into the Trump pond. It's not going to work. At the same time, the Republicans on Capitol Hill, the president himself, they have to start delivering for the American people. Take the temperature down. Everything doesn't have to be said or done in anger. It doesn't help that we have mass immigration into the Commonwealth of Virginia. I just had my Marco Rubio moment. I'm very thirsty. Hold on one second. And that's when someone else talks, usually for me. Mass immigration has changed the makeup of the Commonwealth of Virginia in a dramatic fashion. Loudoun County, Virginia. It's an exurb of Washington, D.C. Now, when I moved here 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago now, Loudoun County was all farms. Much of Tyson's Corner was rural, farmland. Just a tight little part of Tyson's Corner. If you don't know Washington, understand that right outside of D.C., there are all these suburbs. There's McLean, there's Bethesda. This periphery around Washington is very liberal and gotten more so over the years. In part, it's become more liberal because of the growth of government. A lot of these people have government jobs. They don't want government cut. They also have seen a massive influx of two types of immigrants, predominantly. Immigrants from everywhere, but two types, Muslim and Hispanic. Can we now dispense with the notion that Hispanic voters are instinctively conservative? How many times have we heard that from like Marco Rubio and Bush? Oh, these people are conservative. When given a choice, they'd rather vote conservative. Oh, really? Do they do that in Loudoun County? Because we have a massive influx of Muslim immigrants in Loudoun County. I think there are 3 mosques in Loudoun County now. Again, rural. This was cattle, corn, wheat, rural, and middle class. That's all gone. For the most part, it's gone. That part of Virginia, never coming back. So what do we do now? Put points on the board, happy warriors, spread the gospel of economic growth, and declare a new pact with the American voter. A new declaration of independence from corrupt politicians, failed bureaucracy, overtaxation. Your hard-earned money should be in your pocket, not the government's. The tyranny of the experts and the consultancy class that has consulted their way to the top as real solutions are usually had on the local level. Make this argument across the board and be really positive about it. The resistance has to have solutions too. At some point, they do have to offer some solutions. But right now, they're looking at a 2018 that's much more positive for them. And like we saw in 2010, after Obama was elected in 2008, the Tea Party came roaring in. First, you had Chris Christie and Bob McDonnell win those special elections in 2009. I remember being on the air that morning And I told my Republican friends and all the listeners, you thought all hope was lost when Obama won. I remember people coming on the show the morning that Obama won. Oh, it's over. It's over. Then they came on in 2012. It's over. And then Trump came along. It's always over. Everyone's writing political obituaries all the time. They're going to write Trump's. Until Trump is out of office, they're going to keep writing his political obituary. But it's up to him and the leadership on Capitol Hill. That's Paul Ryan, who I actually think has gotten better, and Mitch McConnell, to start doing what they were campaigning on and not play around. Don't play around these games, or you're going to raise taxes on people to go up to 46%, and then married couples in this $400,000 window are actually going to pay 42% or whatever the heck it was. You shouldn't be raising taxes on anyone as a Republican. Why vote Republican if you're raising taxes on millions and millions of Americans? To me, that makes no sense. Stay true to your promises. Be happy warriors. Spread the gospel of populist conservatism everywhere. Be unafraid. You won't win every race. Immigration is continuing to hurt you, and it will. That means you're going to have to go into these minority communities, and you're going to have to try to convince people one at a time. Look, you wanted open borders. You wanted mass immigration. We tried to tell you it's not going to work out well for conservatism. A lot of you listen to the Bushes or Rubio or McCain or Jeff Flake or the Chamber of Commerce, and you love getting the cheap labor and your nannies and your yardskeeper and your landscaper and your bricklayer. Oh, we get all this cheap labor. Well, guess what? You also have a completely changed electorate in key districts and key states across this country. We tried to warn you. It was only Trump who came in and said, I see the writing on the wall here. We need more people like that. McConnell and Ryan, the RNC, you better be looking in the mirror today. And Donald Trump as well. It's not enough to just send a tweet out and say Ed Gillespie didn't embrace Trump. Yeah, well, he didn't embrace Trumpism. That's true. But I think there's probably a lot more than all Republicans could have done in this race. Ed Gillespie, I don't think, is a particularly strong candidate. Never did. He lost when he ran for Senate by 17,000 votes. He lost a lot more this time. 855-40-LAURA. Your reaction to this? I did a mini monologue last night. You will hear more on this from me on the Ingraham Angle tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern, on the Fox News channel. We're going to have all aspects of this covered. We had a really incredible open last night to the show. The personal stories from Sutherland Springs. Now we're really learning the details of what happened inside that church, and it is both heartbreaking and inspiring. A mother's love, the power of prayer, the loss of a child. We'll link up as much as we can on our website, so if you miss the show, you'll be able to watch it. But also, I want you to DVR the show every day. Get your copy of Billionaire at the Barricades. It will give you hope after the results of last night. Billionaire at the Barricades, go to Amazon.com. You can go through our website as well, LauraIngraham.com. Order it. Order copies for your friends. People are going to need a light in the darkness after last night. Don't go away. Thanks to my wonderful sponsors and your support, I'm glad to say that we can provide this podcast at no cost to you at all. As a loyal listener of my program, please consider testing our sponsors because they're the ones who actually cover the cost to produce this daily show. So if you're a dog lover like I am, how about giving your dog, your best friend, a fresh, healthy, and nutritious diet? When dogs eat well, they live longer and happier lives. I'm here to tell you about NomNomNow.com, which cooks the world's best dog food. It's made fresh in the USA and delivered right to your door every week. Nom Nom Now's customized recipes, cook fresh in our kitchen, delivering healthy nutrition you can actually see. Switch to Nom Nom Now and your dog will have more energy, a shinier, softer coat, and a longer, better life. Nom Nom Now really is the best food for your best friend. And right now you can save 50% on your first 2 orders of fresh, healthy dog food when you use my code Laura at NomNomNow.com. That's code Laura and save 50% on your first 2 orders. NomNom now.com. and code word LAURA.
Virginia voters stood in the rain. They stood in long lines. I do believe that next year may be the year of, quote, women voters and women candidates, because I heard stories of women standing in the rain in Northern Virginia in long lines, and they weren't going to move until they got their vote against Donald Trump. Last night wasn't as much about Ralph Northam as it was voters Republicans, moderates, Democrats, and women sending a message to Donald Trump.
Because Trump voters have never stood in the rain. A year ago, Donald Trump won. Joe Scarborough and Mika in the crowd were predicting he would lose and lose badly. And so they feel like they're vindicated a year later. Oh, okay. We were actually in Leesburg, Virginia, the Sunday night before the election. And people were standing for, 6-7 hours in the freezing cold to see Donald Trump, who came 3.5 hours late. So I'm not really impressed that people stood in the rain to vote in Virginia. Virginia is a Democrat state because of mass immigration, Islamic and Hispanic. They are not conservatives. Marco Rubio, they don't vote family values. Jeff Flake. In fact, if they were, if Hispanics were going to turn out and vote Republican for an establishment Republican, do you think that Jeff Flake would be retiring? What does he have, 19% approval rate? You don't think there are Hispanic voters in Arizona? Then why aren't they rescuing Jeff Flake? So Scarborough never talked about the mass immigration today on MSNBC because that's an inconvenient narrative for him. Because the establishment has been telling us immigration's good, more, millions more, bring them in, let them settle, have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kids, keep going, keep it up. Each generation is going to get more conservative. Each generation has not become more conservative. Not to say there aren't some Republicans. Yeah, of course there are, but not the majority. And that's just been proven out. I keep going back to Buchanan. Buchanan's book, The Death of the West. Okay? Suicide of a Superpower. 2 books. Both of them predict what's happening right now. Both in Europe, with the refugee policy, the EU, the loss of independence and sovereignty, and here in the United States. It will become increasingly difficult, for sure, for Republicans to win if Republicans don't get a handle on immigration, don't do things like the RAISE Act, and don't spread their message of economic growth and independence, historical preservation, to a larger body of people. You've got a welfare state, you have a public school system that doesn't teach history, and you have mass immigration. Think about that. So they don't learn the greatness of America in school. They don't learn civic virtue, patriotism. Not really. Used to. 50s, 60s. Even I grew up, 70s. It's a different world. Mass immigration is going to hurt Republicans. Will continue to hurt Republicans. Coming up, Victor Davis Hanson.
I think it's just a good night for the Democrats. I don't want to take any of the joy out of it. They beat the hell out of this guy who pretended to be a Trumpster. Ed Gillespie is a Washington lobbyist. He's way down knee-deep or head-deep in the swamp. He's part of the problem Trump ran against. He is a Catholic grad from New Jersey. I'm sorry. He's not Stonewall Jackson when he tried to run as his grandson. It just didn't work. And people are not stupid.
He's completely right about Gillespie. I mean, I had Gillespie on last week, and I did ask him about Trump, and he's clearly just uncomfortable with Trump. And that's fine. That's what the establishment doesn't like Trump. They don't like Trump. I get it. But when you're not comfortable, and Trump's kind of out there, and he's tweeting, and he's sounding off, he's very comfortable with what he believes. And people want an authentic candidate. And meanwhile, the Democrats were jacked up. I don't blame the Democrats for being jacked up. They got their clocks cleaned a year ago. 1 year ago, Donald Trump was elected president of the United States. Joining us now, we're going to talk to him about this, the implication of mass immigration into the Commonwealth of Virginia, change the electorate, and also the president's speech last night in Seoul, and now he's in Beijing. Will he give away the store on the trade issue to get this phantom hope of helping on North Korea from China? VDH joins us now. Victor, good to talk to you.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
Victor, by the way, I've decided you're my favorite of all of the very calm commentators and historians, but Craig Shirley's my other favorite. But you're so calm in the storm, which is why I think people are reassured by you. Is that a good feeling that you can be so calm and everyone else has their hair on fire?
I'd like to get more excited about that. Chris Matthews was pretty excited, but
well,
I don't know.
Let's talk about this Virginia race, and obviously the Democrats are exceedingly happy because they've had a lot of bad news, whether it's Donna Brazil's revelations or just the special elections. They had lost 5 special elections, at least 5 up until last night. So where do we go from here?
Well, I wrote an article the other day called "Crossing the Trump Rubicon," and I meant by that whether you liked him or not, and you were the Republican. You've crossed the river now. He's the only opposition to the madness, whether it was the NFL or these social issues, the nighttime nocturnal removal of stature, where he's standing up to North Korea, getting the economy moving. So if you go with him, I think it's going to be like Reagan. We're in the Reagan 81 to 83 years, where Reagan didn't do well in the 82 midterm. He got shot. The Lebanon thing, and then they said he can't win. Mondale's an ideal candidate for 84. And then, bam, people got behind him. The economy grew 7% in the 12 months before the election, and he wiped out Mondale. So whether this Never Trump or these Republican or independent or whatever they are, the Bushes, the independents, the Washington, Northern Virginia sector, they represent just a total confusion, and they don't understand that they're going to be sheep left to wolves unless they join the sheep herder. And that's Trump, whether you like him or not. He's the only hope that the Republican conservative movement has to stop this 10-year progression to a European socialist state. And if they can't get it, they're going to hang separately. But he's the only person, whether you like him or not, that's going to make the argument against European-like progressive socialism.
Yeah, I think you can't be a successful, transformative Republican and be in large part in opposition to the leader of your party. That doesn't compute, and that's why Flake is going. That's why McCain is so unpopular.
And that's exactly right. And more important, you can't do it when 90%, 80% of the message is what you fought your whole life for, whether it was on tax reform or repeal Obamacare or on deregulation or on energy production or shrinking government. You can't all of a sudden say that you don't like those issues or you're not going to really be excited about them because the message no longer appeals to you because of the messenger. And that's what another part of this problem is, that they don't get out there and push these issues because to do it would be to agree with Trump. And they can't swallow that. So I pick up the Weekly Standard, I pick up other conservative magazines, and I look at this and I said, wow, this is exactly what you guys used to be against or used to be for. Whatever it is now, they flipped. And it's not because of ideological issues, it's because of the messenger. And that doesn't work well in a Republican Party. You can't say, well, I don't know whether we should frack on federal lands, or maybe we're going a little bit too far in the EPA deregulations, or wow, maybe we didn't really need to code it. I don't really want to export coal to China, or whatever it is, and then be for that up until Trump was for it. And so I think that mixed message and that uncertainty is really suicidal if you're a Republican running for office.
Yeah, the idea that this is a referendum. It was repeated by the same people who didn't predict Trump's victory a year ago, have been wrong consistently. They said this is a referendum on Trump. Look at the exit polls. A lot of the Democrats came out, cited their opposition to Trump, and so this is a warning shot for the GOP for 2018. They better take away lessons from this. Are there lessons to take away from this? Beyond just you can't run against your own president, or you can't be perceived to be uncomfortable with your own president.
I tend to agree with you. I think the candidate really matters. If you had a son of Virginia or a daughter of Virginia running who actually grew up in Virginia and actually was conservative and authentic and wasn't from New Jersey and wasn't a D.C. lobbyist and backed Trump in a way that other candidates have, then I think it would have been neck and neck. He might have lost by one, or she might have lost by one or two, but it would have been a close race. But people look at the candidate, and Gillespie's a very nice person, but he's not an effective candidate, and he didn't come across as either genuine or authentic in that particular state. So there were people who said, wow, he's a lobbyist, and wow, he's part of the Bush machine, and wow, he kind of sort of now today likes Trump and sort of yesterday didn't like Trump. And that indecision and the idea that he wasn't a Virginian, that really matters. And you get a candidate like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was a really flawed candidate. But when he ran for governor of California, people said, whether you like him or not, he's from L.A., he's made his home here, he's all around California. You see him on the freeway on a motorcycle. He talked about being in California. And that got him through just because he was, and some people thought he was repulsive or hypocritical or inauthentic, but the fact was he was a Californian, and they agreed with that. And that makes a big difference with candidate, the local or the state candidate
Yep.
you get.
I toyed with the idea of running against Kane for the Senate, and even people were talking to me about running for governor, because I think I'd enjoy governor more than Senate. But part of the reason I decided it's not right for me, I haven't lived long enough in Virginia. I lived in Virginia when I first came here in the area in 1987. And I lived in Charlottesville when I was in law school, and I live in Virginia now, but I didn't live long enough in Virginia, and I think that hurts.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it really matters for conservative Republican candidates more so.
I would have done better than Gillespie, though. I can tell you that. I mean, I might have still been able to beat Northam. It would have been tough, but I mean, I would have done better than Gillespie. I would have gone everywhere. I would have gone into the Muslim community and say, look, do you want money in your pocket or not? You can think Trump's the worst person to get money in your pocket.
The clips that I saw, he never articulated what was happening with the economy. He never said, wow.
0.6% GDP. 0.6, might as well be dead.
I know it. He never said that the unemployment rate's great. He never said that nationally. They never said that we're the leading energy exporter in the world now. And he never, none of that. And
he needs to go do something else.
Nice guy, but
if he runs again for office in Virginia, I'm gonna just actively work for the Democrat at this point. I mean, you can't keep running for office and losing. I mean, you're not Reagan coming back and from 76
or even
here.
Nixon.
Yeah, no.
Hey, not even Nixon.
Yeah, Victor, let's go on to your other area of expertise, which is the Korean Peninsula and history. We saw President Trump last night speaking in Seoul. This is part of what he said.
Today I hope I speak not only for our countries, but for all civilized nations. When I say to the North, do not underestimate us and do not try us. We will defend our common security, our shared prosperity, and our sacred liberty. We did not choose to draw here on this peninsula.
He also promoted his golf course and talked about how a Korean golfer won at Bedminster, which that is pretty clever. If you can actually get a promo line in your speech in Seoul for your golf course in New Jersey, that you're really creative writing. But let's talk about what he said about North Korea. What was your overall take on this speech? I found it to be a little bit of a snoozer myself, but I know it's really important.
Well,
but
I think
it's too long.
What he's trying to do is he's trying to say that deterrence is not just our view of it. We see these three carriers and we say, wow, anybody would be crazy to test the United States. But North Korea is a very isolated country, and they've enjoyed 30 years of appeasement. So in their mind, they say, well, they've got all that power, but they've never used it, so I have a special contempt for powerful people who are spiritually weak. So what you try to do, what the British and the French did not do to Hitler in 1939, and what Russia and the United States did not do to Germany and Japan, respectively, in 1941, is you've got to really tell the person that you're unpredictable, you're capable of anything. And so what they're trying to do, as I see it, they're trying to put all of this hardware around Korea. They're trying to have McMaster and Haley and Mattis and Tillerson in place, sort of good cop. And then from time to time, they want Trump to be a little crazy or out of control, and then he'll give a sober and judicious speech. And it's all intended for one reason, to say to people in the entire region, China, South Korea, Russia, North Korea, the United States is ready to deter you and denuclearize this. And that's a new message. We forget that. That has not been the message for 30 years. And final thing, I think that China needs to know that the next round of non-proliferation failure, i.e. the next nuclear powers, they're not going to be pro-rogue, they're not going to be pro-China, they're not going to be pro-Russia. In the Middle East, they're going to be Egypt and Saudi Arabia in reaction to Iran, and then Korean Peninsula, going to be Japan, maybe Taiwan even, and South Korea. And these are all pro-American, some of them are democratic, and they're right on the borders of China and Russia. And we should say to those people, we're going to stand back and let these people defend themselves nuclearly, and that's something you do not want. But we have a lot of incentives for China, a checklist. I don't see why Chinese party members should buy property in the United States, why their kids should, why do they go to universities here? Why do they come here? if they're members of the Chinese Communist Party, which are millions of them. And I don't know why we can't say to China, do you want South Korea to send missiles in direction, say, wow, we didn't know that they went that way. Sorry. But we can do a lot of stuff with surrogates and with pressure on China that we haven't done. The ultimate one, of course, besides regional missile defense, is to allow these countries to trade and to allow these countries to consider going nuclear. And I think that will get China's attention. And then the carrot is just handle the North Korean problem, China. You can get any thug you want. We only have one request: no nukes. If you want to get a Chinese national and put him in North Korea, that's fine, but no nuclear weapons. And I think there's enough sticks and carrots that we can do something, but it's in Trump's defense, it's 30 years of appeasement. It's sort of like going up to Hitler in 1939, like Churchill said, or 40. Churchill didn't come into May 10th, 1940, and everybody said, wow, there's a war going on. He said, well, I warned you for the last.
Yeah, we told you this was going to happen. And now we have Victor. We're almost out of time. We'll try to get you on TV tonight if you can. But do you think that Trump is going to stay firm on the trade issue, which Bob Lighthizer, his USTR, and Wilbur Ross, I mean, they are fantastic on this issue. But I'm worried they're going to back off on trade for this fanciful idea that China is going to do much to help us on North Korea. Am I looking at it the right way? We're almost out of time, but really quick.
No, I agree with you. I think he's got a big problem, not just from the Chinese, but from people both in the security sphere of his own administration and also in the economic sphere. He's got a lot of people still that are advising him that free trade, which is unfair, is the way to go. So he's got two lobbying interests there.
Victor,
I agree.
Yeah, Victor Davis Hanson, fantastic analysis as always in Virginia and Asia. Victor, we'll talk to you soon. I hope we'll get you on TV tonight or tomorrow night on this. We'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA. Trump in Korea, now in China. We have been appeasing China for at least 30 years as North Korea continues its ambition to have full nuclear capability and a missile that hits the United States. I'll say these are big issues. Don't go away. You're listening to The Laura Ingraham Show. Remember, Billionaire at the Barricades will give you hope when you think the times are dark. The path forward is lit. Just got to walk right through it. Billionaire at the Barricades. Amazon.com. Remember, Ingram Angle tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern. Democrat National Committee is infiltrated by the Clintons. Politics of division and distrust and corruption. And I mean, that's pretty much where the Democrats are right now. But nevertheless, Ralph Northam celebrating his victory in Virginia. And Republicans looking at these exit polls. Some interesting numbers. We'll go through it. 855-40-LAURA. We're going to talk to Congressman Dave Bratt, who was looking last night at Henrico County in Virginia, which is a conservative county, which I believe showed strong support for Northam. So that's difficult news for someone perhaps like Bratt, who's a populist conservative himself and had that historic victory of his own in 2014 when he unseated Eric Cantor. I think I saw him pop up on TV in the last 24 hours. What does he have to add to the conversation? Oh, my God. These fossils that are being extracted from the rock, pulling out another fossil, fossilic remains of these political creatures who are just they need to be relegated to the dustbin of political history.
Like Ed Gillespie, it's the age of the lobbyists back in action again.
No, I can't.
But, you know, just to talk about this Virginia governor's race quickly, if you listen to that, just that little excerpt, he has that rumble of Virginia in the accent. He was
about the house.
Yeah, he's
walking about the house.
I mean, just play that. He sounds like a the old school Virginia.
Meanwhile, Ed Gillespie's like,
well, hello and welcome.
Hi.
He's clearly not a Virginian. So when the Democrat sounds
from Jersey.
Right. And when the Democrat sounds like a Virginian, he looks non-threatening. It's not unlike the Democrat that won in Louisiana, John Bell Edwards, who up until a nanosecond before he ran was a Republican, but then became a Democrat. But he's pro-gun, he's pro-life. Right. That confuses the electorate.
Northam was vehemently pro-abort, though. He's a nightmare on abortion. So more abortions, more government spending. That's the Northam, what he wants to do.
Yeah, but it's all about...
And tear down the statues.
Like Donald Trump. There was a coherence between what he was saying and what he sounded like and looked like. There was an incoherence in Ed Gillespie. That's why he lost.
Okay, check out the exit polls. Gillespie won the white vote by 15 points, 57 to 42. This is exit poll. We'll see the final results when they tally them. Those who voted who were Hispanic Latino, ready for this? Northam wins by 35 points. Now, what does that tell you about the establishment's claim that Hispanics are instinctively conservative? Can we now finally retire that claim completely? It's false. We told you it was false. Everybody who knows anything about politics, who's honest, Coulter, people like Buchanan, they've been saying for years, yeah, there are pockets of conservatives in the Latino voters. Yeah, there are some, but it's not the majority. It's not the majority. In fact, they come here and they become more liberal because of social services, the culture. They don't know American history as well. They're not being taught it in the schools. So they become more liberal, not more conservative once they come. Most do. It's just a fact. So you have an establishment Republican guy who's for immigration amnesty. He's for immigration reform. Didn't talk about it much this time around. And the Hispanics reject him anyway. So you might as well be a strong, populist, conservative, law and order, and run a happy warrior campaign for American independence and Virginians first. Do that campaign. Take the campaign to the Muslim community. Say you want more money in your pocket. We're going to put more money in your pocket. These people are going to spend your money. I'm going to give it back to you. I just be really simple with people. We want you to have your religious liberty. They want to take it away. They claim that they're your friends, but guess what? They want to hypersexualize your schools. They will take your religious liberty away, and they will not stand up for your small businesses or your ability to make a decent living, et cetera, et cetera. That's the argument you have to make. By the way, the female-male breakdown. Gillespie won the male vote by 2 percentage points, and Northam won the female vote by 22 percentage points. 22%, the gender gap. Wow. Young people, 18 to 29.
This was a blowout.
39%. Northam had a plus 39% of the young voters. What does this tell you? 65 and older and wiser, Gillespie won 6%, by 6%. 45 to 64, Gillespie won by 1%. It is the millennial generation, 30 to 44-year-olds, Northam, 24%, victory. Mm-hmm. The millennials, the generation, why bother? What is that new generation, 18 to 29? What do we even call them? 18 to 29. They're not the millennials, are they? Who's 18 to 29?
They are the millennials.
Part millennials?
They are the millennials.
Who's 30 to 44?
X? That's Y, and then
Generation
X
X
is... I think I'm Generation X.
Generation Text.
I think.
This is Generation Text.
Generation RIP,
yeah,
it's over.
Black voters, 75% Northam. White, as I said, Gillespie.
Well, you have to go out to the people. You've got to go to young people, the Hispanics. You've got to go out to the elderly. You've got to go out to the black community.
Raymond, I don't think that's quite fair. I don't think that's fair, Raymond.
He is a very nice man, but... this is the second time. Remember, he ran for Senate.
Nice is overrated.
He got more votes running for Senate.
That's a nice man. A nice. You know what's one nice? Winning. Winning's nice. People say I'm nice. He's nice. She's nice. What does that mean?
You're very negative today, Laura.
Very negative.
Very negative.
Very negative.
It's not all about winning, just me winning. Okay.
Trump over there on the plane.
Tweets were hilarious.
Trump's on Air Force One. He's heading to Beijing. He didn't buy into Trumpism. He didn't jump on the Trump train. He was very much lacking in support for me.
Let me do the dramatic reading.
Okay, wait,
I have
go
them
ahead.
right here.
I'm just doing impersonations for the rest of the show.
This was last night. Ed Gillespie worked hard, but he did not embrace me and what I stand for. Don't forget, Republicans won 4 out of 4 House seats with an economy doing record numbers. We can continue to win even bigger than before. Believe me.
That's not bad. I think we need to. I'm going to work on your impersonation. It's not as good as it. It's not as good as HW or.
I think I came and I didn't spend enough time in Virginia. You know, he had me come in and out, in and out. W needed to be all over state. The whole Virginia.
He was all over the state. Do we have that sound of
Virginia
the GW
needed,
with it?
Let me just say, Virginia needed to be spelled with a W. There should have been a W in Virginia. We should have. I think if we changed the spelling, Ed would have done better. If we could have respelled Virginia with a W, he could have won. But it's a casual cruelty. It's a casual cruelty of the Trump people. That casual cruelty line. That's right out of Pete Wehner.
That
right?
That is,
come
speech.
on.
It's just the worst. Let's go to Dylan in Nevada. Oh, that Heller. Isn't Heller in Nevada, as I recall? I'm trying to block all these establishment people out of my mind right now. Go ahead, Dylan.
Hey, I'm getting my taxes raised under Trump. I'm in that particular bracket.
Yep.
And with the proposed tax reform, yes. And also, I just don't feel like he's protecting what I breathe. I mean, come noon today here in Vegas, his beloved Air Force is putting a haze in the sky, which completely blocks the sun in Las Vegas almost every other day. I don't know what they're spraying, but there's complete haze by noon in Las Vegas. And it's actually been amped up under Trump. I don't know what it is. They said it's some solar management or something. But I just really feel like we're not being protected. I mean, he is not cleaning the swamp.
No, they're draining the swamp. Yeah, no, the swamp. Well, you know, I've got to say Gillespie was the swamp. I'm not sure about that haze. The haze is something I'll have to look into. I feel like is there a haze of marijuana smoke coming out of that phone there? I'm not sure.
The bright golden haze on the meadow.
No, there's a haze. The haze is coming. I'm sorry, Dylan. I'm going to call. If you're in Nevada and Vegas, is there a haze twice a week, or what did he say, every other day? And is it caused by the Air Force? They're spraying something in the sky. You wonder if Dylan gets out a lot. It's maybe he's inside. He's afraid to go out because of the haze. I'm not quite sure. I have some good news to report. You ready for my good news?
I've been waiting.
Good news. Hamtramck reelects Karen Majewski as mayor for fourth term. Polish American. That's what I'm talking about. I'm half Polish, and this is good news. Hamtramck mayor Karen Majewski was reelected Tuesday for her fourth term, getting 61% to defeat her Democrat challenger, Councilman Mohammed Hassan.
Where is this?
I'm not making it a Catholic versus Islamic thing at all, but I'm just saying.
And where is this?
Hamtramck, Michigan, which is it's a Polish-American community that has been swamped by massive Muslim resettlement. And she does a good job. She does a good job. I don't even know if she's a Republican. Check her out. I don't even know I guess she's a Republican, but I don't even know if she is. But she looks like a big liberal when you look. You know how older women who, this looks like any given, she could be the most conservative person ever. Elisa will look it up. But she looks like any given woman studies professor at Dartmouth. Right, Raymond? Look, God bless her. She's a pretty woman. But she's, there's just a look of they always tend to wear those embroidered scarves, those floppy scarves that are draped around the neck. What is it? You know the ones I'm talking about?
They're cold. That's because they're cold.
No. I'm talking about the decorative scarves.
Are you talking about Polish decorative scarves? Well, you've lost me. I'm way behind.
Elisa, wait, I want Elisa to chime in. Do you know what I'm talking about? Liberal women with those big floppy scarves, and they tend to have long, dangly, tribally.
The blanket scarves?
Yes.
I like those.
The eternity scarves. I could use one of those today.
It's not the blanket
scarves.
It's
like a Snuggie you wear out.
No.
I like
it's the long, it's the embroidered liberal scarves.
You have something against crafts?
Crafts. Well, I do like
Should we
crafts.
get Laura a scarf? Is this her asking us to,
Yeah, this is what I want.
Yeah,
for Christmas?
Is she a Republican, Karen Majewski?
I cannot
You
find
can't
it.
even figure it out. She's running for mayor, and we don't know if she's a Republican or Democrat. How many people do I have working for me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No one could find out if Karen Majewski is a Republican or Democrat. This is good radio. But she beat Hamtramck Councilman Mohammed Hassan, who lost his bid to become mayor of Hamtramck. Hassan, 51, an immigrant from Bangladesh, would have been the first mayor of Hamtramck who is Muslim. Majewski's win means that Hamtramck will continue to have a Polish-American mayor. The city's mayors have always been of Polish descent since it first started electing mayors in 1922. In 2013, Majewski defeated Abdul Al-Ghazali, an immigrant from Yemen who is Muslim. Hassan sought to unite the Yemeni and Bangladeshi Muslim communities, who together make up more than half of the population in Hamtramck. But Tuesday, Majewski appeared to get the votes from Yemeni Muslims. Well, she can figure it out.
Wow.
Hassan did not return messages. I love that. Detroit Free Press. I want her on Ingraham Angle. I want to find out what she's up to there. You got a big immigrant population, and she ends up winning. I don't know. Is she a Democrat or Republican, guys?
It's not.
my God.
I think she's a Democrat because she's saying
her
Hamtramck has rejected across the board.
Her Facebook just says liberal, nothing about Democrat Party. Okay, I go back to the floppy scarf. I go
now,
back
wait a moment. At the moment you were celebrating this as a benchmark for the Polish-American experience.
So I'm excited that she's Polish. I'll take positive things wherever I get. She's
on the
a big
first
liberal.
anniversary of President Trump's election, I read this Majewski quote to you.
How do you have two Democrats running against each other for mayor?
Has rejected across the board the kind of hateful and divisive rhetoric of the Trump administration. She says, the great lesson we have to offer is that whatever differences there may be demographically, we generally function as a united community.
So she's a big liberal who wins the Muslim Yemeni population. But I go back to the photo. There's a certain look about older women with the floppy scarves and the long dangly earrings. Do you see what I'm saying, Elisa?
I'm just getting you a floppy scarf.
No. And it's an au naturel look, which is she's just natural beauty.
She looks like she's in the touring company of Madame Suzatska. Elisa has no idea what I'm talking about.
I backed myself into this corner. We're going to take a break. 855-40-LAURA. I said it was good news. Well, I'm just sticking to the Polish-American news, okay? That's all I'm sticking to. 855-40-LAURA. Mike Pence looks like he's in pain in interviews. He's always squinting. I think we need to get his prescription checked on his contacts. Do you notice that?
He may be on the Ingraham Angle tonight. I wouldn't.
Well,
you could do the optimal. You can do the optimological.
I've known Mike Pence. He's only substitute hosted for me on the radio. I've known him for longer than most people. I've known him longer than Trump's known him. So we'll take a break. Looking for good news. I don't know about that. I mean, he's the candidate. What do you mean, don't blame Ed? Who do you blame?
Blame Trump.
Trump.
He's blaming Trump.
Trump didn't campaign for Ed. Trump didn't go canvass the state with Ed. George W. did.
Right.
And Santorum is a blue-collar conservative. He's one of the people who really supported Trump. So I'm kind of surprised.
You want to blame George W.
George W. is responsible for this loss. George W. and the Bushes. This is the end of Bushism.
The Bush train has ended.
The Bush train has gone off the tracks, and it had gone off the tracks a year ago on Election Day, 1-year anniversary. Happy anniversary, by the way.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. It was a big day.
Do you remember that a year ago? We're going to talk about that later.
And now the train is careening down the side of the cliff. Okay? Hear it? Just completely crashed. That's where Bushism has taken us. Trump is trying to rescue us. We need willing participants. John Heilman, who best known for his collaboration with the man accused of rampant sexual harassment in the workforce, but Heilman didn't know anything about this, he said. Mark Halperin's partner on Morning Joe. It's going to be a shot in the arm for recruiting for Democrat candidates across the country. Maybe it will be. I mean, again, the Democrats haven't had any good news. They really haven't had great news, really great news, since about 2008. I mean,
Laura,
Obama won.
The party's at a 25% approval rating. That's lower than the president by 10 points.
Yeah, so it's not like the Democrats are any great shakes. But in Virginia, Virginia's a Democrat state now. It's a really sad, and it's the fault of globalists in the Republican Party, the establishment Republican Party. They didn't care about demographics. They loved importing all these new people. They loved it. They didn't worry about growing government. They didn't worry about the excess of government spending. They kept the military-industrial complex humming, which means the defense industry in Virginia, Northern Virginia, Richmond, they grow fat and happy on big government contracts. Also software engineering. Look, don't get me wrong. I love these companies and businesses, but they're going to vote in their self-interest. The self-interest for these industries, their self-interest is in government spending.
Bloated government.
Big government contracts, State Department contracts with Northern Virginia software companies, shipbuilding in Newport News. You have all these big defense industries, high-tech surveillance industries.
All these big
DynCorp, all these big companies. Come on.
And I got to tell you,
they get rich from fat government spending.
I'm in traffic this morning. This is the land of Teslas, BMWs, and Audis. I've never seen anything
like Beverly
like
Hills.
It. Everywhere you
Beverly
turn,
Hills.
Brand new car, somebody decked out inside in a Tesla.
And by the way, at pickup, at the schools, kids pickup, and we go to a good school, but it's not like one of the fancy schools, okay? And everybody's driving a brand new car.
I know it.
My car is 2009. I got stuff falling off the front. I got Nico's ripped the screen in the back. He has done more damage to my house and vehicles, that kid. He is a wrecking ball.
Laura, you barely see the duct tape on the fender, really.
Oh, no. No, I have Bondo. I have that Bondo, that old Bondo squirt stuff you put there and you kind of smooth it over. And Mommy, why is the fender coming off? I said, because people drive my car and they hit other stuff, and then they tell me like 2 weeks later, and then the fender falls off. That's why. But it's 2009. I'm not getting a new car. I'm not getting a new car, not buying a new car. I'm going to drive this into the dirt. That's what I do. I'm sick of these everybody has a new car. Where are they getting the money for these cars? Where in D.C.?
And don't
government growth lawyers, government growth lawyers. I'm sorry, that's it.
Don't try to get into a restaurant on a Monday, Tuesday,
Forget
Wednesday,
it.
or Thursday night.
No restaurants.
Packed out.
We've become a white version of Diamond and Silk. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Don't even try it.
But people need to know what's happening.
D.C.
is your government
swamp.
in action.
Swamp, and he's right to want to drain it. Now it's time to drain it.
Right.
And I don't like this. I don't like a lot of this tax bill, by the way. This tax bill is not any great shakes.
No,
I mean,
hitting the upper income tax earners
give me a
fuel
break.
This monstrosity in D.C. is
Cut
not
these rates across the board. Do not get bogged down into this nightmare class warfare mentality. Cut rates, simplify rates. Do not keep these high rates, because the Democrats, if they get the Senate next year, they get the Senate, the rates are going to even go up further. My brother Jimmy messaged me yesterday. He moved to Santa Barbara. He working for a big company. I'm going to get to Dave Brat in a moment. He's my friend. He can hold. I'll bring him into the conversation. I'll bring Dave in. Dave, I'm so sorry. You're on hold. Congressman Brat from Virginia's 7th District. Dave, I was just saying that my brother messaged me. He moved to California, and he's just been there for 2 weeks, okay? He's married.
Yep.
He has grown kids. They're both in California. They both have kids. So he wanted to go out there, and he got a nice job out there. It's not he's not super wealthy or anything, but it's a good paying job for him. He messages me, and he says, I am now on the edge. I said, why? My effective tax rate in California is 47.5%. I'm already developing my exit plan. I'm out of here in 2 years. I'm done. But This is what's happening. This is what's happening to our country. Big, high taxes in states that are dependent on migration, immigrant growth, and government growth, and now high taxes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the one thing that characterizes the swamp is the spending. And you'll notice we haven't done anything on the spending side of the aisle.
None.
And so that's why we're limited in lowering tax rates for the middle class, right? We got this crazy Senate rules for $1.5 trillion that limits us. And if we don't get this spending under control, you lose the country.
Well, what I see in Virginia, and I want your comment on this, we have a combination of mass immigration, a public school system that does not really teach the glorious history of our country, our founding, our framers. Yes, we've made mistakes. Yes, we have warts. But the wonder of this young republic doing what it did against all odds and teaching civic pride and patriotism, that's not done. We still have a massive welfare state, and we have social media, which ramps people up on this, charge of nativism and protectionism and isolationism, but mostly on the, Trump is anti-immigrant, or Gillespie must agree with Trump, and they're all anti-immigrant. So it's a toxic combination of all three.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I taught college for 20 years. Right now at UVA, Jefferson founded. His head is now shrouded, right? He's covered in a black cloth because the university is embarrassed about their founder, who was one of the greatest Enlightenment minds of the time. And so it is an affront. We're not teaching the kids. We're teaching the kids to be anti-business. By the time they get to college, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, business is morally bad in all of higher ed right now, and taxpayers are funding the bill for all this. And so last Virginia was a disaster, and we didn't nationalize the election. The Democrats nationalized it, right? And we didn't nationalize it along the lines you're talking about. Immigration policy, our tax policy. The Democrats raised taxes by $10 trillion in their budget, and you haven't heard our leadership mention that. It's just shocking. And then Obamacare premiums are going up 40% in the checks out this week. I got constituents from Amelia County, even 40% increase in the individual market. Checks are going out, and we failed to mention the failure of Obamacare in an election which we know is going to be nationalized. And so we lost the entire House. We had a 2/3 advantage in the House of Delegates, and now I think best case scenario is about a break even. And so we got devastated, but we need to up our game and run on the populist message. You've been doing that for decades. I ran on it. And then the administration, President Trump, is trying to lead us on Obamacare repeal. The Senate totally face plants on it. He's leading us on tax reform, tax rate, middle class. He emphasizes every other day. The average family in Virginia is getting $1,200 back for real. And you wouldn't know it if you listened to the press.
But Dave, I don't like this other stuff in this. I don't like this other stuff in this plan. I've got to say, when I hear Republicans raising rates on the upper income earners, they're raising rates, raising taxes on any group of people when you have the House and the Senate and the presidency, to me is a total abdication. I know they needed the money. They wanted to do the border adjustment tax. That's what Ryan wanted to do in order to find that money to pay for some of this stuff. But that was shot down. No one wanted that. And I think if you had that, maybe you could have had lower rates. I'd take lower rates any day over the phasing out of deductions. You need rates to come down across the board.
Yeah. No, we wanted to. We're limited by our own stupid rules in the Senate. $1.5 trillion in deficit. They had to write it to that. So you're right. We had to come up with the money. And anytime you gain one piece over here, you got to give it away over there. So you're right. Republicans we should be lowering rates across the board, true Reagan-esque form, and you're going to get a huge economic pop out of that if you do that. And so you're right. We're taking grief. The state and local tax, the New Yorkers and Jersey folks, we're going to have to find them some fix. Otherwise, yeah, they could end up, right? We're lowering rates on everybody. And just so folks know, up to $90,000 for a family, you're paying 12%. That's a pretty good deal. And then up to
We're losing Dave.
Up to $260,000, you're only paying 25%. So that's a great deal.
Hey, Dave, I want to talk to you about your own district and where that was last night. Did that also vote for Northam, or what was the turnout there?
Yeah, my district went 4% for Gillespie, and I won it last time by 15. But, I used to have Hanover County and some of those counties I lost. And so I'm going to have a tough race. So tell the folks to help me out in any way they can, spreading the word and help me out.
Okay, so your district, he did win, but by 4%. Well, I will say this. He didn't run the campaign that you run.
Right.
This is why, I know you didn't want to hear it from me, but I still think you could have run for governor. I know you have only been there for a couple terms, but you just have a much different approach than he does. And again, I'm not trying to dance over the grave of Gillespie, but let's do it just for a few minutes. He did not campaign with Trump. I offered to campaign with him. Bannon offered to campaign with him. And I'm sorry, but until the last week, he treated both of us like we were lepers. Didn't want any part of us. And I'm not saying we could have turned it around, but It wouldn't have hurt. It probably would have helped galvanize some of the vote. But he just we never heard from him until the last week when it was too late.
Yep. I mean, and so he got out a pretty good chunk of the vote, but the Democrats did even better, right? And so they lit it up in terms of turnout. We matched what previous races, but if you would have had the Trump populist message on board, right, you would have had people coming out of the rafters, like when you came down to visit me, right? People were hanging from the rafters. We were expecting 200 people, 800 people show up, and you need that dynamism and that energy. So Ed was starting to capture some of that, right? They were running those pickup, disgusting ads against him. He was starting to get there, but you got to follow through and nationalize it, right? He was doing 20 policy points at the state level.
Oh, God, 21. And no one can understand that. 21. No one wants 21. They want 3 points. 3 points. They don't want 21 points. No one has time. No one reads books. They're not going to read 21 points. Right.
And it was health care. The exit polls made it clear. It was health care and it's taxes, the economy. And everybody thinks Virginia economy is doing good. It grew at 0.6% last year under McAuliffe. 0.6%.
And he might be the Democrat candidate against Trump in 2020. Hey, Dave, come on with us soon on television. We're running late here. But Dave Bratt, it's always great to hear from you, who ran a populist conservative campaign twice, wins twice, 7th District of Virginia. Dave, thank you so much. We'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. The lessons the Republican Party can learn going forward. Do you think this Maine victory for the Democrats and the Virginia victory for the Democrats and the New Jersey victory? Kim Guardino lost huge. And that Bill de Blasio, the fact that New York reelects him, given what's happened to that city, I mean, New York deserves what it gets under de Blasio. They keep electing. Okay, we'll see how that all works out. But so de Blasio wins. But is this a message for Trump or a message for the old GOP? 855-40-LAURA. Mr. Josh in Minnesota on line 2. Welcome.
Hi, Laura. I don't really know what the Democrats are so excited about because they didn't win anything or lose anything. Same with Republicans because the seats they took were already Democratic controlled.
Well, yeah, but they were Democrat and the state is Democrat. But one would think that if you had a popular Republican president, 10 miles outside of the, Virginia heartland of population, the biggest population in Northern Virginia, then you might have some traction there. That's what I think. I mean, if Gillespie was able to win, you could make two arguments: that Bushism isn't dead, and I want it to be over as an ideology. You could have said that Trump helped him, and that Trump did give him some help toward the end. You can't say any of that now. I mean, you can say Bushism is dead. True. But Trump didn't really help him. So I get your point. But, look, they need to grab onto something. I mean, a year ago, they got their, hats handed to them, and they were all crying on television. So, I mean, if you're a Democrat, you have to have some hope now. I've got to just call this straight. I mean, it was not a good night for Republicans. You don't want the Commonwealth of Virginia, with its rich and deep tradition and conservatism, to go red. And it is, blue, and it is blue now. It's a blue state. It's not a purple state. It's a blue state. You still got the legislature, still got some Republicans there, but they're going to redistrict that, and that's going to be bad for Virginia.